Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and this is my review, my what I think of The Gifted Season 1, Episode 3, Exodus. Now, at the end of the last episode, we learned that Reed had basically decided to make a deal with Sentinel Services in order to free his family. He himself would take the fall for being a terrorist, so to speak, and he would also help give them the mutant network. That's what they wanted. The mutant underground network is basically all Jace cares for at this point. That's what he wants. He wants to stop mutants. He's going to do it for his little daughter who died in the aforementioned incident, and he will do whatever it takes to get that done, especially using Reed to expose it wide open. So they end up affixing a tracking device to him and send him back to the bar where he first met Marcos in the first episode, and he has to basically convince the bartender, who is a mutant with the ability to basically go invisible and then reappear. So I don't know if he's got like a Lord of the Rings sort of thing going on, or if he just has the ability to just go invisible. Convince this guy, hey, I'm one of you. I'm cool. I just want to find my family. Ha 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 ha. But they do this by basically trying to create an alibi for Reed, basically putting out that there is an APB out for him. However, that's not once explained to anyone that he runs into. Like the bartender, who's supposed to be like the point man for the Mutant Underground Network, they never even brought that up. So it just didn't really make a lot of sense. It was like, oh yeah, this is how we're going to explain you got out, but it never actually popped up again. Now, when Reed was in the bar waiting to be taken to the drop-off point, he met a mother and her small daughter, both of whom happened to be mutants, and both of whom were just scared for their life and hoping to find some kind of comfort somewhere. Now, Reed was injured from the mobilization dart that they shot him with, well, bullet, really, from the first episode, and the woman was able to remove his pain. That was her gift. And all of this has a realization, the effect on him that it had on Caitlin in the last episode, where, you have Reed, you have Caitlin, they're, I guess, for lack of a better term, they're privileged, right? Reed's a prosecutor who takes down bad mutants. Caitlin kind of turns a blind eye to the whole thing. There's a whole lot of racism that's going on as a result of this, or xenophobia at least, and he had his human moment with them. That's what that whole scene was. It was the human moment where he was realizing that this person is not a threat, that this person is not evil. They're scared. They're trying to get away. They're trying to live their life. And he, in that moment, is also scared, trying to get back to his wife and his children and doing everything that he can to make sure that they are free, even if it means turning in the Mutant Underground. Of course, he has a change of heart when they are driving to the drop-off point. He then escapes from the van, not before saying that he is sorry to the mother and her daughter for basically, almost setting them up. And then as he jumps out of the van, the bartender, now we learn, has the ability to make full-on things disappear. So he makes the van disappear. They take off into the night, and Reed is in a world of hurt with Jace. Goes back over to Lorna. She's still in the hole. There's no word about whether or not the absolute beating her uterus took the week before, if that has any impact. I don't think that it does. I'm pretty sure that the baby is still there. They make a line when Jace goes to talk to Lorna early on in the episode about how Eclipse is the baby daddy, and so at this point I'm assuming that the baby is okay, right? They that's the thing that kind of bothered me, is they set the whole thing up. She gets a full-on kick to the gut, and it causes her to react and use her powers regardless of the collar, but then there's no follow-through on that level of storytelling. So I was a little bit concerned about that, mostly because I'm like, well, I'd like to know, did it have an impact? Did it have an effect? That was a hard thing to watch happen on a TV show. What is the result of that? And nothing. So yeah, that's just kind of a plot point that they let die out, and I understand it. I get it, but at the same time, it's like, these little things, dude, these little things are things like people like me pick up on. Maybe that's my mutant ability, to notice the minutia. That's what I do with these shows. And so she decides she's got to get out of there. And she, knowing that the collar hurts her, still just musters all the energy that she can, and she tears off the door to solitary, but it causes her to have a nosebleed and basically collapse, because it just wiped her out. And then we learn later on that I'm going to get to that. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. But the main part of the story is not so much what Reed and what Lorna went through. It's what everyone in the Mutant Underground goes through, because we again have the two other storylines that are happening. This is a show with a multitude of characters. It's clearly an ensemble, and there's always going to be little stories happening all the way through. So as a result of everything going on, Caitlin she needs to do something. She needs to get to Reed. She needs to know that he's okay. She needs to get back with her husband. So she figures the only thing she can do is go see her brother, who happens to be I think he's an attorney, or he's definitely someone with connections, very well off, and they show up, her and the kids, and they go in there, and he at first is like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, whatever. And then, he's like, I can't really help you, but I'll see what I can do. And then of course it goes to like the whole situation involving, the nephew, right? Because the nephew now finds out that his two cousins are mutants, and they, Lauren and Andy, and he wants to see kind of a demonstration of powers. And he ends up, wanting Andy to do it. Andy doesn't at Lauren's request, but then of course Lauren Instagram stalks this boy she likes and discovers that he went to her house and spray painted some anti-mutant graffiti on the door. And this is a kid that they've known for years. He's like, I went to elementary school with him. Like, what the hell's going on? But that causes him to freak out, get really upset, and basically tear a statue in half. Thinking he is, he's finished up his little tirade for the night. He's had his little temper tantrum. The kids all go to sleep, but then in the morning they're woken up by Thunderbird and by Eclipse, who have been tracking them, trying to get them out of there because they're not safe. And the reason why they're not safe, well, is because a whole mob of dudes show up with guns to collect the $300,000 bounty on Caitlin and the children. And of course, her brother goes out there and he tries talking to them and basically tells them to leave. And he pulls the whole card of like, dude, our sons play Minecraft together. Your kids go to school with my kids. We've known each other for years. Like, what the hell is going on? This makes no sense. But then you find out about the money, and that kind of changes everything. It goes to show you that the people in that particular time, still not above putting morals and ethics above a payday, especially when it comes to an armed mob going over to a house very early in the morning to extract 3 children and their mother from their uncle's house. But at this point, John and Eclipse basically are like, how do we get out of here without leaving bodies behind? They make a run for the door, or make a run for the car after Andy just eviscerates the front door, and everything. Like, they don't want to hurt people. You can kind of see Andy going down the dark path, like he's giving into his emotions, very, very similar to what Vader wanted Luke to do at the end of Return of the Jedi, is just give into his emotions and like let it all out. Because he's also like a 15-year-old kid, so he's just dealing with all of these things. He's not fully equipped to deal with it, and it just kind of comes out of him, like kind of like a premature. Premature blast, so to speak, I think is a good way to describe it. But at the same time, this cuts back over to the whole Blink storyline. Now, Blink is still on the mend from last week, and she's having trouble getting her mojo back. So Thunderbird's been trying to teach her. He was, in the early parts of the episode, trying to teach her how to open the portal by telling her to focus on something that she loves. And during all this, you have Dreamer, kind of the other person in charge of the Mutant Underground. She comes in and she's like, look, I can give her a memory. I can make her feel something, like Caitlin and her are best friends or something, or like Lorna and her are best friends. So they want to get Lorna out. That's what it is. And he's like, no, that will have damaging repercussions, just like it did with these other people that he mentions. Now, we get no info as to what that is. We get no info as to what caused that. But we can see that there's already going to be a downside to this particular type of power that she has. But when, Thunderbird is trying to get everyone out of there, they're being chased by 3 cars of armed men shooting at them. Dreamer, fearing for this man that she clearly has feelings for, clearly is in love with, basically gets Blink to believe that she's in love with him. and that they have a relationship, and uses that as a way to get her to latch onto something so powerful that she'll be able to open the portal, and she does, and everyone gets through. And this is when John discovers that Dreamer put the image of him and her in Blink's head, and he is not too happy with it whatsoever. Now, at the end of the episode, we come back to Caitlin's brother, and he made a couple phone calls. He tells Caitlin that Reed and Lorna are going to be on a transport going to Sentinel Services, some detention center somewhere, and that, you know, she needs to come to grips with the fact that she'll never be able to see him again. And then she's like, "You're wrong. I love you, but you're wrong." And leading us to believe that at the end of this, she's going to mount a rescue attempt using, you know, Eclipse and using Thunderbird and using Blink and using everyone's abilities to stop Sentinel Services to get back her husband and to get back Lorna. And that just seems to make sense. That just totally seems to make sense here. So this is kind of my predictions going forward. Well, first let me talk about what I like. The episode started off a little bit on the slow side. You know, it did. It started off a little bit on the slow side. It kind of ramped up the story, but by the time it got to the house with the brother, I was into it. When they started, you know, having Reed with the mother and the daughter, and he's coming to his coming to Jesus moment in terms of viewing the mutants as people. I thought was really well done. I thought like the blatant racism from the mob mentality showing up was very well done. We've seen this kind of stuff play out in other shows before, but ultimately it was handled very well here. I like the fact that the mutants, like, they can kill. They can. John Thunderbird and Eclipse, they all can. They can all kill people. Not a problem. If they needed to, they could do it. They don't want to. That's not what they're about. That's not their mission. And they do everything they can to make sure that doesn't happen, which is something I really enjoyed, because oftentimes that moral quandary never really comes up. It never does. It never gets explored. It's just like, oh, we're not going to kill them, right? But it's like, we can. We're just choosing not to. You know, that's one of those things I really like when they bring up those kind of thought processes, because it makes you think, like, what would you do in that situation? The Blink storyline, you know, I'm glad they kind of, I guess, fixed one problem, but kind of opened another. You know, they closed one door but opened a portal. And this time it's you know, we already know that they're going to be setting up some kind of love between Blink and Thunderbird, but now we have clearly the situation that Thunderbird's going to have to, you know, deal with. She's going to have this memory. It's not like a temporary memory, apparently. It is a legitimate, long-lasting memory. She will think that her and him are a relationship, or they've been a relationship, or something like that, and that is going to have some serious problems. Because what happens when you tell her? What happens when you tell Blink, like, "Hey, girl, yeah, I really messed up on this one, you know, like, I needed you to do this one thing in this one moment in time." So there's that. But anyway, predictions for the next episode. Clearly, we're going to have an escape. Next episode is episode 4. There's 10 episodes in the season. They're going to want to start moving this thing along, and they're probably going to start setting up what I could almost see as being at least the right elements moving into the end game of the season. You had Dr. Richard Campbell, played by Garrett Dillahunt, who appeared at the end of the last episode, actually have more of a speaking role in this one, but all we know is that he is a contractor. He runs a third-party service that does some work with Sentinel Services. He calls Jace, trying to work a deal for the Strucker children. Obviously, this ties in to the twins or the siblings in South America that they brought up at the end of the last episode, and he wants them. So he's now going to probably come on in and be a third threat, or at least a secondary threat against Sentinel Services. Now, in true Matt Nix style. All right, in true Matt Nix style, here's my theory on this one. One, the next episode's going to have a fair amount of explosions. It's going to have a fair amount of practical effects, because it felt a very Burn Notice-y to me. Today's episode felt a bit like that, and that's not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. I love Burn Notice, so I'm totally on board. So you've got that, and then, of course, you're going to see Jace having to team up with the Mutant Underground Network in order to fight off Richard Campbell and his cronies at the end of the season. I'm calling that right now, because that just feels like what's going to happen. Matt Nix always does this. All right, he always does this, where you have the one bad guy, you have the good guy, they have a common enemy, they come together to defeat a common enemy, and then they go back to trying to defeat each other, or whatever's going to happen with that. So that's my thoughts, that's my theories for going up. So far, 3 episodes in, I'm really digging the show. I'm really digging the show. There was an article I read today talking about how the Inhumans is just tanking in the ratings, and if you watch it, you can see why, whereas the Gifted actually is doing pretty well, so that's good, and I'm hoping that we get more out of it. I'm hoping that we get more. This is just, it's a well-made, well-told story, and I am very excited that they're handling the idea of the X-Men, the idea of the racism and the xenophobia that's always kind of come along with the franchise, and they're doing it in a way that feels very relevant and very fresh for our times. And to that, I have to say, kudos, Matt Nix. Kudos, team involved. You guys are doing a kick-ass job, and I can't wait for the next episode. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day. Peace out.